welcome you to Life Lessons with LaKeshia. Thank you so very much for tuning in as you are helping me and my special guest to mark this moment because this is the first session. And I'm truly excited to have you a part of it today. So I want to make sure that you interact with us. So drop comments, share your thoughts, and all of that because this basically is a platform where we are all going to be sharing our different views and our different thoughts, and at the same time, just educating one another as well as equipping and empowering so we can heal and overcome some of these things, you all, so we can break the generational curses and cycles that your children and my children and their children won't have to go through. But without further ado, as you see this beautiful face on the screen that's joining me to introduce my special guest, Miss Ebony Crane, who is a therapist. And Ebony and I, you guys, you don't know, but we go way back. So it was
way back.
Yeah, way back. So it is just truly an honor to be sharing this platform with her today. And I just want to take just a little bit of time to just share a little bit about Miss Ebony. She is a therapist. She's the LLMSW practicing therapist. And Ebony focuses mainly on trauma-informed cognitive behavioral therapy and solution-focused therapy. She works with an array of populations from the LGBTQ community to couples, families, also oppressed individuals and youth. Some of the things that she specializes in with her clients is facing grief, depression, anxiety, domestic violence, and other various types of trauma. So, Ebony, welcome, 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 my dear. And thank you for taking the time to join us. How are you today?
No, I am great. I really appreciate this opportunity. It's great.
Good, 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 good.
And by the way, it's 2 more months before that other L drops. So it's fully licensed in 2 months. And I'll be
all right.
Right. I'll be opening up shop Resilience Therapy by the end of this year. So
awesome. Okay, you guys heard that. So make sure you stay tuned to this upcoming operational therapist, practicing therapist on her own. I'm so proud of you. I can't express that more. But without further ado, you guys, let's go into our lesson for today. So we are going to be talking about betrayal. Baby, have you been betrayed? I've been betrayed. And I'm going to go ahead and keep it real. I've been the betrayer too. So I learned to live by the statement that I certainly believe that hurt people hurt people. Right. So let's talk about betrayal and man, and its significance. I mean, when you think about betrayal, it's noted as probably being one of the most devastating losses a person can experience. Which, you know, when I was doing the research for this, you guys, like, I didn't really look at it like that. I mean, I know betrayal is deep, right? And it certainly hurts. But I didn't look at it as being one of the most impactful losses a person can experience. Ebony, talk to us a little bit about that from the therapeutic aspect.
Right. So one of the reasons why it may be so hurtful and impactful is because there was a choice that was made that was contrary to an expectation of a person or relationship, right? So, for example, someone took an opportunity from you, or maybe a friend hung out with your enemy. There was an expectation on the friendship that was not met, and now you feel betrayed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so even when we think about betrayal, like you said, it's an expectation that we had on a person. So oftentimes, you know, betrayal doesn't necessarily take place unless you first had trust in the individual. Because you all know we're going to just keep it raw here. You know, we keep it real and wholesome while women on Life Lessons with LaKeshia. So there are just some individuals that we can expect to do some things because we just know who they are, how they operate, and how they get down, right? But when you don't expect that, certainly I think that brings a lot of significance to betrayal, being as devastating as it is. So when we think about it, betrayal comes in a number of ways, right? You talked about that in relationships, you know, a person cheating on you, being abused, being hurt by their by just their choice of putting their own self-interest first. So as we talk about that, like, let's give some examples, and then you guys, I want to welcome our audience to also drop some comments on how have you experienced betrayal, or if you were the betrayer, it's okay, because I have been the betrayer as well. How what was your experience, and what are some of the things that you were betrayed by? So let's give some examples, Ebony.
Well, let me see. One example that I could probably think of is actually a conversation that I had recently, right? A person felt so betrayed because there was a rumor that was made up by them by a trusted individual.
Mhm.
So they were just devastated. They didn't understand. They had a relationship. The expectation of this relationship was, loyalty, a sense of trust, comfort. There was also some vulnerability there.
Mhm.
And so for this individual to kind of turn around and spread a rumor about them, they were completely devastated.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I could certainly share a lot of different experiences that I have had. And I could tell you what, the closer the individual, it just seems like the deeper the knife goes in, right? It's like, it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
and then some of it even turning.
it's because it isn't expected. You're
Right.
not expecting that. So, and another thing I do want to mention is that, these expectations, I elaborate on this constantly because it's like we make expectations for the individual, for the relationship. Now,
Mhm. Mhm.
sometimes the betrayer either isn't aware of those expectations or doesn't
Mhm.
care about those expectations, or that's typically it. It's either ignorance or
Yeah.
there's an ulterior motive there, right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Again, because it talks about um, the loss, when you experience the loss and betrayal, like that being an illusion sometimes, because we have an expectations in our minds that we have on others and as well as ourselves. And so when that expectation is not met, we have to face reality. And sometimes that's the challenging part. I mean, I like to refer to it as the man in the mirror moment or the woman in the mirror moment. Truly, when you're looking at yourself and you're like, how did this happen? How did I get here? And how am I going to get out of here? Because let's just be honest, when a person has been betrayed like that, again, that hurts. And you have to be able to know that along with that come up emotions that some of us may not even have ever even experienced. Like sometimes you don't know the experience of a certain type of pain until you experience that hurt that projects that pain upon you. And I think this is where we have to be careful of judging people, right? Minding the mental is what I like to refer to it as, because many of us don't even know how to identify our emotions. Somebody asks you how you doing, and you like, oh, I'm good, but are we really good?
Right. No, that's just a simple answer because they may not be ready for the weight of the real answer, for one. And for two, it's just easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and talking about minding our mental, I'm sorry, go ahead. You were going to say something else?
No, I was going to just elaborate on that loss of the illusion, right? So, and we're reverting back to the expectations of the relationship, right? Many people do fantasize a person has particular characteristics that
Mhm.
you to put those expectations on them.
Right.
And then that strong desire for perfection causes the illusion and these unmet expectations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How do you think, Ebony, so, I'm all about breaking generational curses and cycles, which is a big part of, why I'm excited that God allowed me to do this life lessons with LaKeshia. So, how do you think in terms of the different cycles, right? So, for one, watching what our parents went through, or aunts or uncles, or if you have older siblings, so watching things that individuals went through as we talk about setting standards and expectations. I believe, now you have to correct me, right? Because that's why I have you on here, because you're a therapist. But I believe that some of that stuff, we just adopt it, right? Because it's our environment and we are products of our environment. So I just believe that truly a lot of that is adopted by our own, by our own absorption of what we are around and what we experience. So as we talk about betrayal, and accepting, because there are some people who can accept some things, and then other people be like, that couldn't be me,
Right.
So
Right.
how do you feel like that intertwines the whole, let me go back because I just said a whole lot, the whole part of the cycle, right? Seeing things and being exposed to things at younger ages, and then when you become an adult, having to experience that for yourself.
So I'm actually going to speak on that when we start talking about taking steps in the healing process, how it's responsibilities of the victim and also the person that is the wrongdoer. And that is something that really plays a huge role, is the wrongdoer's norms, their values, maybe their survival tactics. So we are going to get into detail about that, but it's definitely related. Is that because, I mean, think about it. If I can give you an example, my mother is a workaholic. I have never just had one job. I have always had three. Nobody can come and tell me, you should just they try. You should have one job and really just, be with your kids more, and they try to push these other priorities on me. And it's aren't important to me, right? It's just like, that was my norm, is to be able to provide for my kids and make sure that I never go back where I came from. And so that's something that I had to mold as I got older. And one thing that I really sacrificed was self-care. And so you see a lot of the posts that I make, it's really about self-care. Like this, and it's so important because that is something that was sacrificed so much throughout all this time that I've just been working, and I'm still working. So now it's more of a balance. So it's just something that I've had to mold over time, that nobody can just come in and kind of just say, this isn't right, and I would just listen to them. It was something that I had to take those steps in order to be like, you know what, this is something that needs to be corrected. Once again, when we get into the responsibilities of healing for the wrongdoer, that is something that we're going to elaborate on, is the fact that this may be their norm, right? This may be once again, they're in survival mode. So they're not thinking about who they're hurting and what the impact, that they're thinking about, hey, this is right. And so for somebody to try to come and correct them, and the person that you betrayed is now like, hey, you betrayed me, you hurt me. They're like, whoa, hold on. Everything I learned isn't right. Now I can go back and relearn something else because I care for you. That's big. That's huge.
It is huge. It is huge. And I think, and I know we're going to talk about this, but I think when you're in a relationship, like, that's one of the greater things that sometimes can make or break the dynamics of a relationship, because individuals, they love the way that they grew up being loved, and everybody,
that's what they know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Is not the same, but I don't want to jump ship. I'm already kind of getting to it. That's because I'm just really excited. But so let's go back, and then let's talk about. So we know that the theory of grief involves several different stages, and I'm eager to hear you kind of share with our guests what some of those stages are, and like the process of them. So, going through the denial stage and the bargaining and anger. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I know, like I said earlier, when you have that man in the moment mirror, that man in the mirror moment, woman in the mirror moment, in the midst of the moment, you like, what, you don't really know what you're going through. It's almost like you've been through a whirlwind or a tornado in terms of your mental and emotional capacity. So let's talk about the different stages as it pertains to the grief process of betrayal.
Right. So one of the first stages that a person may encounter is denial. Right. So so this is exactly what it is, right? They're denying the loss of the relationship, because once you're betrayed, there may be a loss of the relationship or some type of loss of trust. You can grieve trust, right? If there's a loss of it. So we have denial, we have the anger stage. This is just where you become furious. You may be upset with yourself for allowing somebody to betray you. You may be upset with yourself for not seeing certain particular red flags.
Right.
There's a lot of resentment.
Like I've heard that there is a such thing of healthy anger, like the anger that you feel when you are actually like fed up enough to like, I gotta do something about this anger.
So for me, when I think about anger, people always kind of relate this to this negative emotion. And there is no negative emotion. Like it's about how you handle it. Right? Some people can be angry, and believe it or not, they can go take a run. Some people are angry and they can, pray. You don't just always have to take it out on a type of violence. And so, but honestly, when people think about anger, they're like, oh, something's about to pop off. There's going to be some type of explosion that kind of comes that follows anger. And it doesn't have to happen that way. There are ways to handle anger. And that's something very important too, is that you allow yourself to feel. So while you're grieving the loss of the trust or the relationship or whatever type of loss this is, it's so imperative that you allow yourself to feel every emotion that comes along, right? And handle it to the best of your knowledge, but reach out to support systems and make sure that you're handling this to where you're not putting yourself in danger or others in danger.
Exactly. Right? And I just want to quickly elaborate before you move to the next stage in terms of reaching out to support and seeking help. You guys, it's okay to get help. I know that some of us were raised in an atmosphere or environment where we were told, people aren't gonna be able to help you. What you going to talk to them for? You ain't crazy and all of this different stuff. We are not living in that world. I don't know that we ever were, but it is okay to get help. And as we talk about support systems, when you have your support system in place, you have to know what you can expect from the supporter, because everybody is not going to be able to be sometimes what we expect for them to be for us at that time. I think a lot of people get victimized because they go to family members or close friends, if they just be like, well, I know she's gonna be there for me, like that's my dog, like we've been cool since, but they may not know how to be. So it's not that they don't want to be, but they may not know how to be. And so that's why you got to make sure that you're seeking good counsel to even help you understand. And then for those out there who are supporters, to our audience, if you guys have been, most of us, we've been down through there. So you may have been alongside supporting someone, helping them walk through something. It's okay to say, I don't know what to do, but then helping them to find a resource. Like we don't always have to have the answers. Sometimes just being a good listener is oftentimes what many of us need, with no judgment coming behind it. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But okay, what are some of the other stages?
So we've talked denial, anger. We didn't touch on bargaining. So bargaining is the stage that may take place briefly. It could be like a one sentence episode, right? It doesn't have to be constant of like bargaining and negotiating. So in this stage, you negotiate the loss and like, hey, I'll do anything for this to be right again. The victim may negotiate by kind of looking at their self and being like, man, what did I do to deserve this? I'll fix it. You can trust me. I'll cover up when I'm outside so you don't go and cheat on me again. Or
the technical difficulties, baby, but that's okay. We ride right through them. So as she gets herself back together over there with her screen, I just want to say to the audience, thank you guys again for tuning in. And I hope that you are sharing your thoughts as well. Like we are all going through. And when God gave me this particular topic to launch Life Lessons with LaKeshia on, I was like, betrayal? But it's evident I mean, look at the times that we're living in right now in the world. I mean, the world in various aspects is experiencing betrayal. Okay, you made it back. It's okay. I don't know what's
Yeah,
happening.
you
I
hold
don't know
it
what's
down because I
happening,
keep cutting out. I thought I had some good Wi-Fi, maybe not.
that's okay. It's all good. I was just while you were rerouting over there, I just was sharing with our audience that the world is experiencing betrayal right now. I mean, with everything that we have going on, it's deep and it's triggering a lot of things for families, individuals, and I get very concerned about our youth. For those of you who know me, I'm very compassionate about our youth and our adolescents. And I want to make sure that as much as we can, you guys, we got to breathe on them and we have to check in with them. Parents, I know we get busy trying to, make a dollar, go to work, pay bills, and do all that, but we have to make sure that we're making time to check in with our children, even if it's just nieces, nephews. If you don't have children of your own, maybe you've got nieces, nephews, godchildren, whoever, the up the street children, just checking in. Because if you can think about the things that we are experiencing as adults, and some of us don't even know how to navigate what we're going through, how much more challenging is that for our children and the youth? And then children are becoming parents so much more earlier nowadays than back before. That now, if they're not understanding and knowing how to deal with some of these things, it's almost impossible to think that they're going to be able to teach this to their children, right? So we have to take the responsibility and make sure that we're checking in. I call it minding your mental. People always want to say mind your business. I'm gonna mind my business, but I want to mind your mental because I need to know that you good.
Right.
So let's make sure we're minding each other mental. So I'm sorry, Eb. I'm glad that you got it back going over there. So you were talking about the bargaining stage.
Right. I think we had just wrapped that up, right? So that's when negotiation takes place. This can be on behalf of the victim or the wrongdoer.
Okay.
So I guess moving on to the next stage, it would be the sad and depression stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people can handle this quite differently, right? So I tend to overeat when I'm sad and depressed, but
Well, I don't eat at all. Yeah.
See, yeah. Some people may isolate. It's all dependent on the person, but this is when just stuff starts hitting home, right?
Right.
You may start looking at the potential that the relationship had and just wondering why, constantly questioning yourself, wanting some closure on behalf of it if that's necessary. And so it's just a lot of that. So
man, you just said like a word that just gave an aha moment to me when you talked about the potential of people. A lot of us fall for people for their potential. And it's so sad because you see the greatness and the good in someone, but that person may not even see that in themselves. So going back to the bargaining stage, we tend to bargain ourselves and barter ourselves off because we are trying to pull this potential out of this person. You're like, oh, I know he can, if I just help him get a job, he'll work. He's just having a hard time getting a job. Or, for the woman, well, if I help her get herself together, then, she may not want to be with multiple people or whatever it might be. I'm just throwing some examples out there. But I know that, we see the good in people and we want to pull that potential out of them. We want to see that potential in them. But man, baby, you have been and took yourself down through that. I don't even know what to call it, Bill. Trying to stick around to help somebody else develop their potential to be in their purpose. The best thing to do is get somebody that is, and we all need to help somebody. I'm not saying that because we all need help, right? But get somebody who is willing and wants to help themselves, because we'll deplete ourselves trying to pull this out of somebody by pouring all of us into something that really is like a bucket with a hole in the bottom. So I'm sorry, I just had to throw that up in there.
No, well, that's one of my big sayings that I say is that you can't pour from an empty tea kettle, right?
Right.
So how are you attempting to pour into somebody, but who's filling you up?
Right.
are you going to be about yourself so that you're able to keep pouring into others? And I am a firm believer too that our experiences and things that we go through and that we learn from, lessons learned, be shared, because it will help somebody, right? So, yeah, very valid points.
As we talk about helping, what are some ways? Let's talk about some different ways that individuals can help themselves process when going through this whole grief process of betrayal. When you've come to the point that you realize that, what? Like, they really did that? For real?
Right.
What can a person do? We talked about seeking help and so on and so forth, but what else can they do to even start helping themselves process what they just went through?
Right. Okay. Before we jump to that, the last stage is acceptance.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
No, so 5 stages. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of the last stage is acceptance. Now, just really briefly, it does not mean that you have to be okay with the loss. Like, I'm good. I'm good without them or the situation. That doesn't mean that. It just means you're allowing yourself to have a relationship with the memories that were once there, right? You're not in denial anymore. You're not sad, depressed. But once again, you can bounce back and forth. So very quickly, I've been in stages to where I was sad, depressed, and then I went to acceptance. And I was like, I'm okay. And then 2 hours later, I'm back to anger. So they're literally, it's not fluid. You can wear at any moment. And once again, it's all dependent on your perspectives of the situation, your culture, your it's all dependent on that. Yes. So let's get back to the helping, right? So, now once again that we've kind of made everybody aware of the grieving process, let's discuss how to heal. So we will also put a link at the bottom of this video or in the chat to kind of summarize the grieving process once again, because I know that we start rambling, we get into
I know this is deep.
So I do have a 5-minute video that once again kind of summarizes these things. It's important to highlight that each individual has a healing process, whether you're the betrayed or the betrayer, right? So coping skills, which they vary from individuals. Some people may smoke marijuana, some people may drink, some people may some people may pray, some people may get involved in a sport, some people may travel. Coping skills include writing letters and then ripping them, running, once again, overindulging, traveling, those type of things. But while using these coping skills, be aware that your mental state, and know that you will need to eventually face the betrayal, right? So get you through that emotion that you're working through right then and there. Eventually, you're going to have to face the betrayal and what happened in that situation in order to completely heal. And these coping skills only provide temporary relief. So it can be supportive in the healing process, as it can support resilience building, processing and overcoming trauma associated with abuse that may have taken place, interpersonal conflict, the responsibilities for the victim when they're healing, right? Identifying lessons learned and the ability to be aware of red flags or to improve communication maybe next time, because once again, going back to the person that was the betrayer, maybe they wasn't aware of the expectations that were placed on them. Or to form expectations that a person is able to meet. Now, before I proceed with responsibilities, let's take a minute to talk about that. Just 10 seconds, okay?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Look, constructing expectations, we've already talked about it, but I just got to elaborate. I got to emphasize this. Constructing expectations for a relationship and a person that they are able to meet. Not what we desire for them to meet. They
Right. Because sometimes our expectations can be a little little out the box. Like, you expecting that from somebody, but you ain't even doing that. So make their expectations realistic. Absolutely.
Right. So, for example, when somebody has shown you that they kind of misuse money and they blow money, right? And this is your friend. You know that it may not be possible to be able to loan them some money because they may misuse it and kind of do whatever and not pay you back. If that's a pattern that they've shown, if this is something that you're aware of and you've seen, right? It's kind of, you shouldn't place the expectation of they're going to use this money for whatever if you see that they kind of misuse it, right? So it's just being realistic with the expectations that you're placing on somebody based on the behaviors that they have shown you, right?
That's good. That's good.
And not placing ones that you just hope that they are.
Right. Because sometimes we can see something, and again, that little potential pop out in your heart. If you looking at it all day long, you know what it is. What they say, if it quack like a duck and it walk like a duck, it's a duck. But we want to give it, well, it probably might be just a chicken. You know, that compassion in your heart. So absolutely. You could have said that better. By the behaviors that we see, and not going into that denial stage and acting like you don't know what it is. You see, and we just have to deal with it as it is. And I think a lot of that comes with maturity, because once you've gone through some things, baby, sometimes this is why you got to take time to heal before entering into something new, because you put up a wall so thick that when the right opportunity or person or whatever does come along, your trust issues are so thick you can't even visit the opportunity, because we've made that wall so thick. And I mean, it's like they say, you're caught between a rock and a hard spot. It's hard, it's challenging. I personally, being transparent, I have trust issues. My circle is very small and tight, but I'm a very private person. This is why this is stretching me beyond my comfort zone, which is cool. I'm just trying to be obedient and do what God told me to do. But I don't, because I feel like the more I share, or the more somebody may know about you at a point in time, might just be something that then they try to use it against you. I had enough of that growing up. And I think that's why I'm so compassionate about the youth and our young adults, and just trying to help them navigate through. Because when people say, well, you can talk to me, well, I'm here to help you, and then you try to utilize them as a support source, only for you to go back and tell my mama everything I just told you. I mean, those are the types of betrayals that I experienced as a youth, when I didn't even know to call it betrayal. I wouldn't have named it that. I probably called it something else. I didn't call it betrayal. I'm sure of that. But that's what I was experiencing at a very young age. So I also want to just throw out there, you guys, as I talked earlier about being able to identify our emotions. My famous tagline for that is, you can't tame it unless you can name it, baby. You got to know how to say and face what you're dealing with, so you can overcome that thing. If you think about training up a pet or something, the pet has to have a name, right? Because you got to have something to call it in order for it to respond to your demands, or to whatever your orders of training is. So you have to be able to also name your emotions so you can tame them. And it doesn't mean that we won't feel them again, but when we feel them again, we'll know how to handle them.
Right. And so back to the responsibilities of the victim, it's also the responsibility to something that you obviously just described for yourself. It's a responsibility to be resilient, right? Making sure you bounce back by going to therapy, or by relying on a healthy support system, right? So being raw here, right?
Right, that's right.
Honestly, you may not get an apology. You may never know the reason someone has betrayed you. And this is hurtful, especially when they mean something to you, right? Going back to that example that I gave about a person telling me like they trusted somebody and they went and made rumors about them. She mentioned like, they still haven't apologized. And so then I had to have this conversation with her, like, well, I don't know if you necessarily need to take that part up with yourself. Right? Looking at somebody that possibly betrays somebody, or somebody that betrays someone, you don't know the reason why they're not coming to you and apologizing. They're embarrassed. Maybe they can't accept the fact that they did that, so they don't even want to look at themselves. Right. Maybe they were doing what they knew.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
only thing that they were taught in life. And
Right, right. Learn behavior. Absolutely. Yeah. But
exactly. So
make
you
sure
never.
our audience is definitely chiming in. What are your thoughts about that? When you're trying to get through something, a lot of times people do say they need that apology for closure. If you're
Right.
not able to get that closure, do you feel that you're able to move on? Just want to hear from our audience as we continue to share the wrap up here. But just want to know, what are your
Right.
thoughts about that? And is that okay?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, that's a challenge, right? A lot of people feel like they really need that closure, and that's where kind of looking at it from a different perspective. Like, you never know what this person is going. They just don't want to face themselves. That's a.
Mhm.
They just don't want to face the betrayal that took place, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. Finally, the last responsibility of the victim is recognizing and adjusting to a new normal, right? Betrayal
Mm-hmm.
may have left a lasting impression on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
For you. So those type of dents in our life, they form us, they sculpt us differently.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
those experiences. So now what, right? That's
Now what?
the new norm.
Mm-hmm. Woo, that's heavy, baby.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
what? And this
Now
is where
what?
we can't be traveling that extra baggage into new opportunities or relationships because you already coming in with some mess. Like that's why, and this is probably another segment, but that's why we have to make sure that we go through the process, like completely for you, not for necessarily the next person, but for you, so that you can become whole again with yourself. You know, back in the day, as I think about the betrayal in terms of relationships, I used to always hear people say, well, relationships is 50-50. Okay, so I heard that growing up. But baby, when I got
Mhm.
old enough and now being a married woman, I'm like, it ain't no 50-50. It's 100-100. Because if you only giving me 50, where the other 50 going? You know, you got to give your whole self. You can't be
Right.
so we need to take our time is my point being. And again, I know because we're actually running over time, but it's okay because we had
Right.
some technical difficulties, and so we're gonna go ahead and finish this part of it up. But I think that might be another segment, like seriously, just talking about how some of us think the answer to healing is just to move on. Oh, I lost this job, I'm gonna just get another one. Not dealing with the feelings that you felt in terms of not getting that promotion that you thought you worked so hard for and that you rightfully deserve. Oh, you know, he or she messed up. Oh, you know, I'm gonna just boo up with the next one. I mean, all that, you know, next, the girl got a song about it. What's the baby name? I ain't gonna lie, I like the beat, but when she be saying something, I don't know, my kids be playing and she be like, next, like she, and you don't know. I gotta find the song now because I don't know they're gonna clown me. They're gonna be like, they already be telling me, "Mama, you don't even know how it go." But I know how it go in real life, and I know what the baby is saying. You know, she's like next, but if you ain't ready for next, you'll end up messing up somebody else's life or messing up an opportunity that you weren't even ready for because you didn't take the time to properly go through the process and heal. Uh oh. Ebony, I think you froze again over there. It's all good. I thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you so much for hanging in there with us. We did go a little over time as a result of experiencing some of these technical difficulties. So, for those of you who were able to and stay with us, I thank you, and I hope that you will join us again as we come back with various types of life lessons. If you have a life lesson that you want to talk about or share about, be a guest on the show, please send an email to rawtalk@gmail.com. Rawtalk@gmail.com. We will make sure we place that in the comments, and that's raw, R.A.W.W, because it's real and wholesome while winning. So make sure you got those 3 W's in there. Again, we'll place that link in the comments. I want to make sure that as we move forward with this platform, that we are not just talking about things And I say we because myself and any of my future guests talking about things that we just want to talk about, but we want to talk about what the world wants to talk about, because that's what this platform is all about. And we want to make sure that we are educating, equipping, and empowering individuals to be able to overcome the things that have hindered us from properly healing and being who we are truly called to be. So, Ebony, do you have any final and closing thoughts? I know you got misconstrued over there again with this whole technical difficulty thing, but it's all good. This won't be the last time.
No, but no, I guess not. I will actually post a comment below that kind of lists some of the wrongdoers' responsibilities in healing, because I know that we're running over time, but I do want people to be aware of, because once again, we more than likely have been the betrayer.
Yes.
And at what point do we heal from that?
Right.
The healing process for that.
Yeah, man, we didn't even get to talk about that part. That's a whole nother layer. We definitely got to come back with betrayal session number 2, because we didn't really get to go into, man. I mean, we paved the surface, but you know what? This is deep, you guys. And I want to make sure, Ebony, we got to drop your information because some individuals may be watching this and they may feel compelled to chat or have a conversation. And so we need to make sure that we have your contact information as well. So if you don't know of or have a trusted therapist, I mean, you've been able to experience her in action here, or even you might need to just refer to a friend. So we want to make sure we're definitely going to be sharing her information. She has a YouTube channel where she drops lots of nuggets and different videos and things too. So we're going to have all of that for you guys, because I want to make sure that you're following her as well, and being able to continue to be poured into in a way that's going to promote healing for us all. So I just want to say thank you so much again for your time, for your expertise, and we're certainly going to have you back, because we're not done with this thing yet.
We went a whole other hour.
I know this is deep. I want to be respectful of the time of our audience. That's the thing about the whole virtual thing too. Sometimes it's hard to stay tuned in to stuff for long periods of times. I mean, but when it's good, it's good. So you'll stay on. But we want to make sure that we're honoring your time. And thank you so much to the audience that did tune in. Please share this video, because the whole thing is, it ain't about us, but it's about, everyone else and what everybody is dealing with and going through, and then hopes of just sharing will compel other people to share, or to even come to grips with, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one. Right. And, that's what we want to make sure that, we want to make sure that people are not feeling like they are alone. You are not the only one. You are not alone. So let's make sure we're sharing this information. I just want to thank you again, and stay tuned for the next Life Lessons with LaKeshia that will be coming up. It will always be on Wednesdays, unless something has to change. But I am excited. Thanks again for joining. And I just want to say love, peace to your soul. It's your girl, Miss LSG.